of the apps on the App Store don't make more than $100 a year. Here's advice that we can give you to move you from the 99% to the 1% that print.
Lots. You talk about UGC. I see your tweets, but I feel like I'm chasing the wrong metrics when I'm looking at UGC. Every time the creator posts, I want that number to go to like 150,000, 500,000, a million views. I want views on my videos because that's what's going to get more eyeballs on my app, right?
No. So I think that's the issue that people normally look at. They just think I want to get 1 million, 10 million views, 100 million views. I'm going to use that to then retire my parents. And that's what people kind of like generally think, but that's not how things work. And that's also not how things should work. So the definition of virality is this black swan event. It's something that you can't make yourself. It's kind of like you kind of have to keep on trying, and hopefully one time you can do it, but it's not something that's a repeatable process. And no business in the world that's big or even doing like 50K MRR, also 50K monthly revenue, works off things that are not repeatable at the end of the day. So what I say people should do with UGC is UGC gives you something we call content market fit. It tells you what type of content generally, organically does well. And then you use that content and then run ads on that. Because when you post onto TikTok, you're posting onto anyone in the world. You like when you post on TikTok, you don't actually you can't filter who sees your stuff. It could be anyone. But if generally it's kind of getting, consistently 5K, 10K views all the time that you're posting the same kind of content, that shows you one thing. And that what that shows you is that, oh, actually, this type of content, people generally like it. So if I can now use ads to now push the content even more and even maybe select the audience that I want to see it, then that means that I can actually convert them on a higher basis itself. So to give a perfect example was Spray Screen. We had a piece of content that was doing really well for us on one of our TikTok accounts. Again, like it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't anything outstanding per se. It wasn't like we were getting like 100 million views every single post. Some of them get 5K, some get 10K, some get 150K, whatever it is. But we kept seeing that it was consistently doing well. Then we run that on Meta ads, and then we were able to choose our audience with Meta ads. And then what we found is that we were getting, I think it was like 30 to 50 cents per install in the US market, which is like unheard of. Like for the same dollar spend, we were getting 3 times more people coming to our app that actually installed it itself. And that's kind of like the key thing here. And I think that's what people need to kind of to work around. And some people just think, hey, I just need a UGC army to be able to create like so much UGC. I also see that a lot of big apps out there, they don't really talk about the ads side of things at all. So the perception to people is that, oh, I just need to crack UGC. And once I crack UGC, I can also make 3 million a month like CalAI itself. But I can tell you, like, a majority of their revenue does not come from UGC. The reason they still run UGC is because it gives them fresh new content for them to run ads on, which is again what every business does at the end of the day. And that's why the ad industry is so big, right? There's a reason Meta makes 180 billion a year just on ads itself, just because they have the eyeballs and they be able to kind of boost posts.
When you have an app and you're scaling it, it slowly starts becoming a business, right? Like there's a certain point where maybe it's like a project and you're making some money on it. But once it becomes a business, in the business world, you want to be able to track every metric you possibly can. We've spoken about this before where it's like, you have these TikToks that are going up that you cannot directly attribute a paying customer to. But what Meta ads or TikTok ads or whatever these like ad platforms, what it unlocks is like you can literally follow the line pretty close and you can see, okay, I'm spending $1 on advertising. This is how much money I'm making back. And that's your ROAS, your return on ad spend. This all of a sudden now becomes something you can track. And now you can actually predict. I throw $1,000 at my ad spend, I'm going to get $1,500 back in revenue. All of a sudden now you have a scalable portion of your business where it's like there's no guesswork anymore, right? And if you're running a serious business, you're not going to want to be guessing. Like I throw $100,000 at marketing. Maybe this month I get $20,000 back, or maybe I get 150,000. That's not sustainable.
Exactly. I totally agree. And then just to deep dive a little bit on that, just to show what it looks like for an app, for example. So let's say we were getting $1 per install, just to make the math easy. That means if I spend $100, I'm now going to get 100 installs. The job of the ad is to get the installs. It's not to get the revenue. So cool, now I've got the install. Now, if my onboarding average, let's say, so the average onboarding conversion rate from free to paid user is actually 2%. So I remember I spent $100, I gotta have 100 users at the beginning. So 2% of them now convert to paying users. How much revenue is that? Now that is now based on your pricing model. previous episodes, we talked about pricing. I remember we did the price anchor to make the yearly seem more, whatever it is. If it was based on our pricing, we were charging $60 per year, and we were pushing people to do that for $60 per year. So those two people that converted now would now equal $120, right? At the end of the day. So now it's like, oh, if you now work it back, I spent $100 to now get $120 at the end of the day. I want to say that's great because obviously Apple still takes their 30% fee, etc., etc. If you're in a small business program, then it's 15%, taxes, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to now increase the amount of revenue you're getting from that $100 spend, there's a few things that you can do and a few levers you can pull. Everyone tries to do the hardest thing, which is how do I increase my conversion rate? It's just so many things, so many variables you can do. What you could do is just, hey, maybe I just increase my pricing. Because if I now increase my pricing from $60 to $70, it may not actually affect conversion rate at all. But now you'll increase the amount of revenue you're going to make by another $20. So that's you're doubling how much extra revenue you're getting from that ROAS. So now it's like $140 you're making from that $100 spend. Or you can work on the creative side of things because remember, we were saying $1 per install. Luckily, our creatives were really good. So we were getting, let's say, 50 cents per install. So now for the same $100, I'm now getting not 100 installs, I'm getting 200 installs and keeping everything the same. And we haven't touched anything else. Now from that 200, we're still getting the 2% conversion, but then now that 2% is 4 people. And now 4 people still paying the same $60 is now $240, right? So now it's kind of like, oh shit, I'm putting in $100, I'm making $240. This is amazing. Let me put my life savings inside. So is this actually like math way of working it out? But sometimes people don't see it like that, or maybe they don't track things enough for it to be like that. But yeah, I think these kind of things are super important when you want to raise investment, or number two, actually exit the app. So I think that's something we can talk about another episode, which is actually like how to exit app or how to get your app ready so that it's exitable, because people need to be able to translate what you've done so that they can just see very easily, oh, okay, they're spending money on ads, it's printing money, it takes them X amount of time to get their money back on this. So this actually looks like an asset that could be profitable for us.
And at the end of the day, like if you're probably selling to a company that already has like shareholders or stakeholders or something, right? Where they need actual metrics to be able to justify the purchase and then justify, okay, I'm actually going to make money on this over the next 4 years if I buy this today. And as soon as you have this math that Lots alluded to all worked out and you have like all the numbers because, you actually are tracking that in an ad platform, all of a sudden now you go to like a studio or a private equity firm or whatever, you show them this, they can do the math and they can go, okay, you know what, 4 years actually makes sense. Now all of a sudden you're closing in like 2 weeks instead of like 4 months.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
If you're still trying to figure out like UGC and how it all ties into ads and everything, we're going to be yapping about that a lot. So feel free to hit the subscribe button, follow us, leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll hit you up.